Good morning, everybody, and happy Tuesday. Welcome into another Best Damn Pod in the Land. Thanks for joining us today. With me, as always, is Dan Divjak. But before we introduce Dan, again, what should we do, friends? Like and subscribe. I remembered again.
Smash that like button.
I remembered again, man. Like, that's 2 shows in a row. I feel like I should get a prize or something. So, Dan, how are you?
I'm great, man. I had a good day yesterday. Went out and bought a family vehicle for the crew that I'm really excited about. Those minivans are really high technology these days, you know. Actually went out and got a Jeep Grand Wagoneer, so kind of splurged a little bit. Got a great deal on it, and super excited about it. So it's something.
Those are amazing cars. I love the way they look. I like Jeeps anyway. Like the 70s Jeeps, you know, the soft tops and stuff. I've always thought it would be cool to just have, I always called them knock around vehicles that you could go like mudding with and stuff.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting older and mudding doesn't sound as much fun for my back, but I still would probably do it.
Yeah. I keep my car. So this is something I'll drive for a long time. And, you know, I just paid off a sedan that Avery will start driving in February when she turns 16. So
there you go. Yeah. Well, so this is non-Buckeye football related news, but I know we chatted offline a little bit. Did you catch, and I know you did, the stuff about Jaden Rashada when he signed with Florida and how involved Billy Napier was in the signing, and then he only got like $150,000 of however many millions he was promised, and it's a mess. And you said you read did a deep dive on one of the articles, right?
Yeah, I went and in that On3 link, there was a link to I want to say a CBS Sports article about it, and it went deep. It is a cluster of epic proportions. I mean, you've got 3 guys from the University of Florida side of things involved, but what got lost in this story up until now, at least based on my recollection of it, is that Miami had a $9.5 million offer on the deal on the table. And the John Ruiz guy had already paid $150 out to him. And then Florida came calling and, you know, up the ante by, I mean, who's teaching economics at Florida? You know, if you want to beat 9.5, you go to 10 or 10.5. You don't go to 13.5. You know, like what's going on?
I don't know. I guess maybe they just wanted to get it over with.
Yeah, I guess, man. But yeah, I mean, it's bad. And so what they're saying is they threw out all sorts of buzzwords in their complaint.
Yeah.
Conspiracy, fraud, tortious interference with the Miami contract. It's going to be really interesting to see what plays out with it. And then more so, if Billy Napier was involved with it, I mean, they're going to get hammered.
Yep. Well, you know, Connor Stallions was probably spying on the whole thing, so we should ask him what happened behind the scenes. It's probably some grainy iPhone footage somewhere.
Shots fired.
Sorry, man. I was having so much fun watching your Twitter interactions yesterday.
Dude, the analytics on that one tweet, are off the hook.
Why don't you tell everybody what it was? We'll shift into that real quick. So Dan put out a tweet yesterday, and I'm dying because I've known this. Like, this is not new news to me.
And to be fair, I did not argue with strangers.
No, you didn't. You just put it out there.
So, you know, we've talked about this before. Like literally at the beginning of our podcast, the first time we touched on the Michigan garbage. But I put out a tweet. On 3, or somebody put out a tweet about the Michigan State AD asking the NCAA, like, hey, what's going on with the Central Michigan Connor Stallion on the sideline thing? Like, we want to know. You know, we've got them on the schedule twice in the next few years, and we don't know if we're going to keep those if they were contributing to this nonsense. And so all I did was position myself as a source of information. That's all I was doing. I was facilitating info. And I just said, fun little fact, this whole thing started when somebody at Michigan State noticed somebody trying to breach their server from off campus. And I said, it wasn't Ryan Day, and it wasn't his brother, and it wasn't their family dog.
Rico.
And that is information that I received just almost by fluke. Because again, we're not insiders. From somebody at Michigan State inside the campus that I happen to know, and totally random. They reached out to me when they heard us talking about it and say, "Hey, did you know? Like this is what prompted. This is what set everything off."
Yeah,
we laughed, because they, we laughed about the catapult stuff that was out there, and everybody thought that Ryan Day's brother, who was a former CIA double agent with the KGB, went and infiltrated the Michigan system.
He lives in the Kremlin in the basement or something.
Yeah, something like that. He's actually invisible, so it makes him really effective at his job. Like he can get around anywhere he wants to go.
Must have the Harry Potter invisibility cloak then.
But that set off. The Michigan folks came out of the woodwork on that one.
Yeah, well, I thought I would, I was watching it. I thought, when I retweeted it, I was like, because they were asking, why hasn't Central Michigan said anything? And I postulated fairly, I think, that maybe they're under an NDA until the investigation is over, and then it just cascaded from there. So I agree with you. We know what we know about that. So,
but I did not argue with people.
No, we didn't argue. I don't.
I didn't respond to a single complaint.
I get mad, but I don't argue, especially if somebody like insults my character or something. I'm like, listen, man, you don't know me. Anyways, or insults my beard. I had somebody once insult my beard. So I'm like, whatever, man. Just be jealous that you're 12. All right. So getting into our actual show, then, what we planned on talking about. So recruiting, specifically wide receiver recruiting, seems unusual this year. And I've watched, I was listening to the Will Fong whip around, even though he's at On3 now, and a variety of other things. And it almost feels like, to me, and I pose this way, Jamie French is kind of waiting to see what the other, top 4 to 6 guys are going to do in the receiver class. I don't know about you, but am I reading the situation wrong? It just feels that way.
I've stopped trying to figure out the recruiting game at this point. It is so different than it was 24 months ago.
Yeah.
Than anything we've ever experienced before. You've got these kids, they're now signed with agents. They now have people giving them guidance. And it's turned into the NFL free agency system where people put out leaks about such and such a team having such and such an interest in such and such a player. And they're just trying to increase the value of their contracts. I mean, it is the wild, wild west. Oregon, some information I got recently, Oregon is apparently paying $20,000 for unofficial visits and $30,000 for official visits.
That's higher than what I heard, but it tracks. So I was told 10 for unofficial, because I heard what I was told, it was double what other teams had been offering, which was 5.
Yeah, well, 5 is where it started, right? So it's only it's only fair to reason that it's gone up, right?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, because I was talking with my brother about this morning. It's like, we're like, okay, so what's in it for the school to do that? Well, number one, they think if they get a highly rated prospect on campus, they can sell them on coming to their school.
Sure.
But it also creates brand recognition, right? It gets momentum. Sure. It gets a buzz. It's like, look at the boards right now. Everybody's freaking out because some of our highest, the guys highest on our board are showing love to Georgia and Oregon. And those are really the 2 main schools. I'm starting to think that Oregon's board it updates in real time when they find out who we're recruiting.
Usually when somebody Ohio State offers, others follow.
Yeah, but it's and Ohio. We've got a really, really good crowd. It's been down a little bit recently, right?
The next couple of years look good. Yep.
Yeah. So O-line is freaking stacked next year.
Absolutely. So let me throw these names out at you, and this is who I know for sure. Coach Hartline is recruiting: DeCorian Moore, Phillip Bell, Quincy Porter, Dezay Jones is in the class already. Talon Taylor, Kalik Lockett, Vernell Brown, and Dalen McCutcheon. And all of those players. Now, the interesting thing, there's a couple outliers. DeCorian Moore is only like 5'11", and so is Vernell Brown. They're both shorter receivers than what I've seen.
What is Jones?
I think he's like 6'1", 6'2".
Because he's a slot guy too.
Yeah. So now I'm not picking. This is me not picking. I'm just going to say this in a way that I'm wondering. It's a question. Dezay Jones, 3-star, the only one in the class. I'm confused why they took that commitment first. When you have these other players, you're gonna need to take 4. You'd like to have 5, just given the way the structure is. Do you find that odd? Am I reading too much into that? I know Brian Hartline. I shouldn't question him, and I'm not really. It's just interesting to me that the first commit you take, is a 3-star that nobody really had on their board.
Well, I mean, really, what you're getting into here is a conversation about you're surprised that the offer was committable, because that's something
Correct.
people need to realize, that just because offers go out, it doesn't mean it's committable, right?
Coaches Georgia does that a lot. Offer. Bama does that.
And I think we're doing it now too. I think we're starting to see it with probably running backs and quarterbacks and things like that. I mean, positions that require development and they want to see progress during their senior year, they're going to get that offer, but it's going to be conditional, right?
Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying, because the kid wasn't highly recruited, but then you go and watch his film and you're like, okay,
he can play.
Javon Boggs was, rated in the 600s when he committed to us.
Yep.
So the Jones kid is a freaking stud. I mean, his route running at this age is off the charts. It's elite.
I'm not questioning Brian Hartline or the kid. I just thought it was interesting. Of that group, it's, to me, for a committable offer, I don't know if, like, you were going to rank them. For me, it's, I want DeCorian Moore, Dalen McCutcheon, and Vernell Brown, and then, if Dezay Jones wants in the class, great.
Yeah. Well, I really want Quincy Porter. I mean, we need his size.
Okay. Fair.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's hard to tell anymore, man. And I think you're going to see a lot more of what we saw with JJ and Edric, down to the last minute this fall.
Okay. Well, I brought this up because I don't know where you stand on Jamie French. I know we've talked about it. I think you said you think he's going to end up in the class. Is that correct?
I'm unsure on Jamie French.
Okay. Maybe that's what you said.
I don't
think he ends up in the class. Oh, both of them. Vernell Brown.
I think Vernell Brown ends up in the class. I'm not sure about Jamie.
Okay. I'm out on Jamie French.
I'm leaning more out on Jamie French, but I'm never gonna count out Hartline if he wants somebody. The other thing we need to think about here, and this is what some of the chatter online has been, is apparently, the guys that are given the money for the collective had said, they've gone and said, listen, the receiver room is good. We need to build up the trenches. And that's why you're starting to see the momentum pick up with some D linemen and O linemen. David Sanders, for example, is the money is earmarked for the trenches on both sides of the ball. And we might not necessarily have, the off the charts money for the receivers that we did for JJ, for example.
Okay. Well, none of these guys are JJ either. So let's put that out there. So, I'm glad you brought up the collectives. So to finish my thought, I'm out on JJ French. I don't think he ends up in the class. Vernell Brown, I'm like 60-40 that he ends up in the class. But I don't know, after all this stuff that has come out about Florida and Miami and some of this other stuff, man, am I ever thankful for Brian Schottenstein and Drew and those guys, like, for the 1870 Society, that, like, they have their heads on straight. and they're doing things the right way. Because gosh, what a mess if you're, and as much as I do that if Ohio State so much as did something worth 10, like for 10 cents that was out of line, the NCAA, ESPN, everybody and their brother would be camped outside the Woody talking to Ryan Day, and it would be a huge story, and we would be under investigation for 12 years of bowl bans, and and because it's Ohio State, that's what would happen. And so I'm glad that we have the collectives that we do, and with Cardale and everybody helping out. So shout out to them.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to transition to the team from recruiting, because it's the off season, so there's a lot, and there's recruits coming in. But if you were going to give me 4 names, 2 from the offense and 2 from the defense, who you feel like need to make big jumps during summer workouts, who would they be, and why are you feeling that way? So start with the offense.
Offense, I think the first and obvious one is it's got to be, I want to see Luke Montgomery jump there, because, I think it's pretty well accepted at this point that it's going to be a right guard that needs to be figured out. I think the other 4 positions are locked and loaded. I wouldn't be surprised if Carson wins that, but somebody at the right guard position is one of the names.
All right.
The other one, this might surprise you a little bit. It's got to be Devin. If he's going to prove me right, which, remember, I'm not always right.
Because that's what we want to do.
Remember, I'm not always right, but I'm never wrong.
Yeah.
If he's going to prove me right, he's got to make it an impossible decision for Ryan. Like, he's got to make it a no-brainer.
Yeah. He's got to be lights out. Yeah.
I'm going to go, which is ridiculous. He should just have to be better. Right? It's like any other position. Who's better? Who's performed better?
Right.
Who leads the team better? Who does the team respond to better? I don't understand why it's so hard. But I think that it's going to be it's a really, really big summer for Devin if he's going to win that position.
Fair. Okay. Well, offensively, so I'm in line with you. So I had thought Luke Montgomery, but the other guy that and I'm not discounting Carson Hinsman as a guard, but what if Austin Saraveld had a huge summer, like with his ability to be a road grader at guard? I don't know. And we want to run the ball a lot. So, but the reason I mentioned Luke is because I know how much we've talked about this, how much Chip likes to pull and trap, and Luke has the feet to do that.
Yeah.
So that would be number 1. And then the other one for me was Jelani Thurman. And the reason I say this is because I feel like the tight end position is incredibly unsettled. And he has the ability to be incredible, and he has the frame to put on some weight, and, he could sneak up on some people. And, I like the Scott family. I like G. Scott. I like G. Scott Sr. I think the transition from wide receiver to tight end is incredibly difficult for anybody in general. Like, that's, it's a completely different skill set. And we saw it with Cade Stover moving from linebacker to tight end. You can be a great athlete, but doesn't make you a great blocker. And so I think Jelani Thurman, if he had a big summer, could be impactful for the program itself, and not only just him, but the program. So that was why I chose that one.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
He could be an absolute weapon.
Yeah, for sure. You just think, if you're Devin Brown or Julian Sayin or whoever, and you have a safety net that's Jelani Thurman when a play breaks down or something, how good does that make you feel? That, like, you can drop it off 3 yards and he's going to get you 12.
For sure.
Yeah. Just saying. Just something, one of those things. Just one. I left out Will Howard. Sorry, Will. It wasn't intentional. All right. So defensively, who you got? It's tough because there's a lot of good players.
Yeah, first one I'm going to go with is that second tackle position. I want to see Jason Moore become what LJ said he was going to be.
Okay.
I mean, that's just 6'5", 310, the ideal 3 technique.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so sexy, to think about on the interior of our defensive line.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's fair.
It's just awesome. The other one, I'm going to go with Sonny.
Okay.
Because and here's why is that there's been an awful lot of chatter about CJ, being ahead of him, and I'm not sure that's accurate, but I want Sonny to take it and own it and be the guy that we all think he can be.
Yeah. So I listened to, I can't remember who it was the other day. It might have been, I think it was, actually, I know it was. It was Bobby Carpenter. And he was saying how easily Sonny has made the transition from safety to linebacker, and that, a lot of people would find that hard. And he was talking about, and maybe I've mentioned this before, but basically, at safety, you have to go fast. Everything's fast. And at linebacker, you have to go slow until it's time to go fast.
Right.
And that Sonny has made that transition really easily. So just one of those things. I don't know. I still think Sonny's ahead of CJ, but based on everything I hear, but it'll all shake out. But I agree with you.
You think there's a chance they're downplaying how good Sonny's been? I mean, it's only going to take a game or two for people to realize how good he is if he's truly that good.
Well, I think we knew how good he was last year, but
yeah, it's not like we're opening with Oregon or Texas or somebody like a big out of conference.
They have a 5'9" quarterback that can't see over his center. I'm not worried about Oregon. I'm not worried about Oregon.
Is Dylan Gabriel small?
Yeah, he is 5'9".
Is he?
Yeah, maybe
really?
5'10". Yeah,
I had no idea.
Yeah,
I think we are going to make a statement against those guys.
I think so too. So he is listed he's listed officially at 5'11".
Oh, okay. So I thought you were going to say 6 foot.
No, 5'11" officially.
Well, that means he's legit short then. If they got him at 5'11".
Yeah. I'm telling you, he's 5'9". Yeah. Okay, so my two, Oregon, wow. So my two, number one was Mitch Melton. So I am pulling for Mitch Melton, which is part of the reason I bring this up. But if he has a good summer, continues to build on what he was doing, I think his ability in a Rushman package and this is why my desire is for them to slide Jack Sawyer in beside Tyleik Williams and let Mitch Melton come off the edge with Tuli Molowau. And it's just something I've had in my mind the last 2 years. I thought would be really cool because everything you hear about it is how hard it is to block Mitch Melton because he's fast. So I would like to have him have a healthy and productive summer camp because I think he can be a pretty critical part of this team in a Rushman package. And then my other one was CJ Hicks for the exact reason you said Sonny Styles. I think Sonny Styles is ahead of him. I think that CJ Hicks will probably end up playing the jack and he'll be the third linebacker. I don't think he's going to be the starter. I think he's going to be see ball, get ball guy out of the jack position. And so I just think if he's going to be the starter, he has to have a big summer.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? I listened to Buckeye Huddle this morning with I don't know who they had on there, but he was breaking down the jack position. And I'm not convinced anymore if CJ's really the jack guy.
Okay.
Because the way he described that position is that there's actually a read element to that position.
For sure, yeah.
You
have to read run pass option.
That's not not only that, but you're reading linemen, and if a guard pulls, you're supposed to make the numbers even to the side that he's pulling, and it leaves the back it leaves the backside linebacker to be the playmaker.
Right.
Right. And so that's not see ball, get ball.
Yeah, that's true.
So it was an interesting breakdown, and it was something it was broken down in a way that I hadn't heard it broken down before.
Mm.
And it made me think that CJ's not the perfect guy for
Fair. Okay.
it.
All right. So I'm going to flip over to the offense, and this is actually something somebody asked on Twitter, and so it wasn't like it was just, and I answered it, but and I didn't write it down who it was, so sorry, whoever you were. But if we were Chip Kelly, one of us was Chip Kelly, how would we set up the running back room this year? And would we put Q and Chip in the backfield together?
Q and Trey.
Or yeah, excuse me, Q and Trey. Whoops, sorry. Not Chip Trainum, by the way.
You want to go first? Or you want me to take it?
Yeah, I'm all in on listening to you, man.
So yes, Trey and Q are going to be in the backfield together. I think Chip is going to have a lot of fun with that. He's got a history of doing it he's with all sorts of formations back there. But if you can go with split backs, it's going to cause a delay on the defense, right? They're going to have to slow down to figure out, and then boom, you're hitting it, right? Yeah. So, they will definitely be in the backfield together. As far as who do you ride, I think it's a rotation unless somebody's just really going off, But I think the thing with this offense, I think we're going to see a lot of chunk plays.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily going to mean that particular person is the hot hand right there. It's just going to be the scheme that allows for those chunk plays. So I think the rotation is going to be huge. I think you can see it if we go tempo. I think you might see some, alternating of series so that you don't have to. So we don't allow the defense a chance to sub. Right? We just keep the same personnel out there and march down the field, and then the next series the other guys out there.
Okay.
So I think we might see a little bit of that too.
Fair. So I'm going to throw this at you because it's part of the running game, in my opinion. How many screens, bubble passes to Trey Henderson this year? Over, under 10?
Oh, over.
Over. Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering because you have Emeka healthy.
10 for the year?
Yeah. Over, under 10 catches for Trey Henderson.
10 catches for the year or 10 bubble
year?
Screen,
10 screens. 10 screens. Let's do screens because I know he's going to get more than 10 catches. 10 screens.
Yeah, I think it's over. I just think it's a part of his offense.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, I was just curious because the wide receiver screen kind of went away last year under Ryan, under the offense. Like it was a big part of the offense with Olave and Wilson and some of those guys, and they'd considered it an extension of the run game, which fair enough. Like our run game wasn't terrific, and I was just. It was one of those things you go think back to Trey Henderson's like coming out party against Minnesota a few years ago as a freshman. He breaks that game wide open with that, 65, 70 yard wide screen and, takes it to the house. And it's the first time I've ever, I think in my life, remember Gus Johnson pronouncing somebody's name wrong. So,
yeah. I don't know. I got to go back and look at that play and see if it was an actual screen. If it
was a screen,
just a little swing pass.
Yeah, I think. Swing pass screen. Okay. Anyways, so I'm with you. I think that they will both be in the backfield together. I think they will be. I think you're going to see some really funky formations with Q lined up in front of Trey or Trey offset. I think they may run a shotgun with an ace formation. I think you're going to see the pistol. I think you're going to see it all, and I think they're going to be all in it together. What's that?
He loves the pistol because he thinks it takes away showing your hand.
Yeah, so I think you'll see all of it and more because I think both those guys are incredible athletes. Both of them came here to win a championship. Both of them are, came here to, both of them, Trey stayed and Q came to take some miles off the tread. So, I think you're going to see it all and then some. And I would not be shocked if Emeka Egbuka lines up in the backfield with them either. So,
one thing you said, I just want to clarify, like if you're considering, a swing pass as part of that screen number, then it goes over 10 for sure.
Okay.
I think we're gonna see way more inline screen old school traditional screenplays,
Let
like
the guys
that
through
are,
and pop it over their head. Yeah.
yeah, then the outside, tunnel screens or pop screens or
Yeah.
pop passes, things like that. I think we're going to see more of the traditional stuff that's like within a yard of the outside the tackles and inside the tackles. I think you can see some stuff right in the middle. It's part of Chip's arsenal.
Yep. Fair enough.
And it's a great way to get both those guys into open space and let them do their thing.
Perfect. I agree with you. All right. So on the topic of Chip Kelly, and this was something that it came up on another show, and I didn't agree with the answer, so this is why I'm doing it. The question was, does Chip have complete autonomy on the offense, the way that Jim Knowles, quote unquote, is the head coach of the defense, or do you think Ryan Day is still, holding on to 4 or 5 of those strings, and that though he trusts Chip, ultimately things land back on the head coach. So does he have autonomy to do what he wants? And I'm leading into the quarterback conversation.
What was the conversation you heard? What did they say?
So basically, they said they didn't 100% think so. That more or less that he thought that Ryan Day was still heavily involved.
And you don't agree with that?
I don't think he's heavily involved. I think he's still involved. I just don't think he can be as involved as he would probably like to be, which is why he said he misses the coaching aspect of things.
So I think this is a multifaceted answer. Number one, if you're asking if Ryan is still pulling the strings, I think Ryan's playing the harp. It's not a 3-string guitar, it's the harp. There's a lot of strings there that Ryan's hanging on to.
Okay.
Caveat to that. I think that's more applicable to personnel than play calling, and specifically in the quarterback room.
Okay. Well, that's where I was going. I think Ryan Day's, he even said so much today. I was listening to the Jim Tressel podcast with him, and he talked about a coach's impact on players and personnel and decisions and those kind of things. So I think he's still very much involved with that. And that's why I said I think there's still, I don't know, don't want to call it positions, but I still think there's like 4 or 5 things that he's active in and is passionate about. So, but I don't think he's trying to run the entire offense anymore.
I agree with that 100%. I think come game day, Chip's going to have the most autonomy come game day, in my opinion.
Agreed.
I just think, especially after those first few games.
Yeah.
Now it'll be interesting to see what happins in Oregon if it's a tight game and if Ryan, if his sphincter tightens up like it does against Michigan.
Puckers up. Yeah.
I mean, we need, this team needs to see Georgia Ryan Day.
Yes.
Now that's a little hard because he's not the one calling the plays. But he's going to have to allow Chip to be that version this year. You've got to release the hounds with this team, man.
Yeah.
You can't. We've got enough depth at this point that you can't worry about guys getting hurt. You can't worry about, a turnover, that, because our defense is that good. And we can make up plays if the right guys are in there.
Yep, I get it for sure. I agree with you. I was thinking back to the Georgia game, and we all kind of point to that. But honestly, if our defense doesn't give up over 40 points, we win that game. So, and there's Marvin Harrison that got hurt. We can talk about all that. But if the defense doesn't crack in the second half, or Lathan Ransom doesn't fall down, there's a lot of ifs.
So fourth quarter.
Yeah. So, anyways. I'm with you. I'll be interested to see what happens with some of the higher caliber teams if Ryan Day, because if I remember right, and I was trying to go back, but I'm pretty sure Urban Meyer had the final say on a lot of the play calls, especially around the goal line. Even though we all know it was going to be quarterback power anyway. So it's just
well, it's interesting you say that because Zach Smith, I've heard him tell this story a number of times now, and it's about the Purdue game. with when
Oh,
Kenny
he
was
went
in,
up and go ahead.
you know, and he wanted to run the ball on that 2-point conversion.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom Herman stood up to him and said, Urban, no, like, this is the play we're going to run. That's why we practice it. It's for this situation. You need to trust me. And they ran the play, and, you know, Kenny, you know, is forever immortalized in Ohio State
completed
lore.
barely completed a pass.
But so I think that, yeah, I don't know. I think Urban gave his opinion a lot, and maybe it changed a little bit. Maybe Ryan didn't stand up to him the way, you know, Tom Herman did. But listen, Chip is aggressive, and he's going to get into his groove, and he's going to be the primary play caller.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, guys. Well, that's our show for the day. We had a little bit of a mismatch of everything, but I'm going to transition over, and Dan, we kind of wanted to wait till the end of the show because Dan's fired up. But if you guys didn't catch the interview with Paul Finebaum and Tim May, Paul Finebaum is a prick and showed that he's a prick, and Dan is going to do his "Get Off My Lawn" segment. So,
yeah, man, you know, I listened to that, and dude, my blood was boiling. Like, listen, I can have fun with Paul Finebaum from time to time, but the way he treated Tim May with literally no heads up at all, in a way that he's never done before. Tim May goes on his show, he goes on Tim May's show, but for him to, it's evident what was going on. And let me make this clear. Paul Finebaum is a Q-tip head, Dumbo ear flapping, pencil neck, Nick Saban coattail riding piece of crap. All right. He's the kid that got picked last for kickball, and now he's got a microphone in front of him, and he thinks that he's this big bad wolf. And he's just an arrogant SEC, ESPN shill. And what he did to Tim May there, the gloves are off, man. It's no longer assumed. It's no longer speculative. The SEC is on their heels because they've seen what's happened the last couple years. All right. 2 years ago, and it wasn't last year with Michigan winning and the Big Ten team winning the title. It's 2 years ago when both Ohio State and Michigan got into the playoff, and there were 2 Big Ten teams and not 2 SEC teams anymore. All right. And then the reports just came out that the Big Ten had the most revenue of any conference in college football last year, $888 million. And that's without the benefit of the new TV contract. Right? The ESPN and SEC, or ESPN, has lost the Big Ten contract. They're no longer broadcasting the games, and they're not being shy about it. And it's funny that, you know, their messiah, Saban, as soon as there was a level playing field, he was out of Dodge. The guy quit. He quit. And I respect the hell out of Nick Saban, but let's be honest, man. Guys like Paul Finebaum have made a career over the last 10 to 15 years because of Nick Saban and because of Alabama's dominance. And
don't forget the McDonald's bags of cash.
I mean, listen, now that the playing field is level, these guys are on an anti-Big Ten tirade, and all they want to do is act like they weren't doing NIL for the last 10 to 15 years under the table. And now that the playing field is level and everybody else can do it, they just want to come out and attack and disparage and protect their brand. And Paul Finebaum is a punk. And for him to do that to Tim May, oh man, let him come on our show.
Yeah.
And try that crap.
Well, I think we should have a celebrity boxing match, Dan versus Paul.
And I'll sneeze and it'll be over.
Yeah. All right. So, but yeah, I agree with you.
Try that on a small pod.
Yeah. Try it on a small pod. Exactly. Yeah. So I agree with you. I actually had to stop it a couple times, like pause it, because it really pissed me off. Because you know, Tim tried to handle it well. He's like, you know, wait a minute now, Paul. Like, you know, I don't know if we were at the same game even, because, you know, the targeting call, and Paul tried to say that the officials reviewed it, you know, and it's obvious that the talking heads at the SEC have asked Paul to like try to diminish the quality of football in the Big Ten. So,
Well, I mean, look at Sankey, man. All of a sudden, like the Big Ten was an afterthought, and then once we got 2 teams in the final,
Yeah.
and we knew that their champion was on the ropes against the Big Ten runner-up. All of a sudden he's wanting a seat at the table with the Big Ten and going into cahoots with them. It's a different world now that everything they've been doing for years and years and years. And I'm not here to say that Ohio State and every other big program hasn't had $500 handshakes and stuff like that throughout the
Ohio
years.
State never did that. Just whatever. Michigan.
But I mean, the SEC level was different, man. I coached high school football in 2010 and 11 in Georgia. And there is a kid out of North Florida by the name of Travis Blanks. Okay. This is 2010 or 11. And he was a safety. He ends up going to Clemson. Georgia offered his mother a house during the recruiting process. All right. And I know this because the coaching staff that I was coaching with came up from his school. And he almost came and played with us his senior year in high school. So I know this for a fact.
Okay.
And so to act like it's just, I think it's hilarious. It's
holier than thou, as they say.
Oh my God.
All right. Well, that's a good place to end our show.
I'm going to go take a walk.
Yeah. Dan needs to go take a breather outside. And I agree with you, man. It was rough. It was rough to listen to. I don't know why he did that to Tim, because Tim's always been like, he's just kind of a low key dude. He's not like, I don't know. Anyways,
Tim is an Ohio State treasure.
Yeah.
And would
we protect our own
in half.
Yeah. We protect our own for sure. All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening. If you are still with us, don't forget to smash the like button and punch the subscribe button or whatever it is. I'm old. So thank you for listening. You guys have a good day, good week. We'll see you on Friday for Buckeye Friday. And as always, stay safe. Go Bucks.
Go Bucks.